And boy, if you ever had to worry about whether democracy was alive in America, just come to Delray Citizen Association. This is wonderful. It makes me feel so good about Alexandria, about Virginia, about our country. And by the way, 2 years ago, I won the spelling bee, which is very cool. I killed Rod. And they gave me a trophy. It's the same Scripps people that do the National Spelling Bee that, for the kids. And so they handed me a trophy that said, Best Speller in America. So I was really proud of it. And so then this last year, we got to defend the title. I was the very first one out. And then he beat me pretty handily, so it's a little scary. I want to introduce Noah Simon. Noah has the tile on his back. Noah, so many of you knew Susie Warner, who ran, Gail knows well, Susie ran Jim Moran's constituent service office for 24 years and then another year and a half for me, and then decided to retire. And we stole Noah from Arlington to run it. So if you have any problems, Social Security, OPM, visas, passports, even if it's not federal, call him anyway, because he knows everybody on city council and the county board and everything else. He was on the Arlington School Board for a couple of years too, so he's deep roots in our community and a wonderful guy and a really good team. I was over with Lisa Jacobs, who's in Alexandria, at the Social Security office this afternoon. They're having Employee Appreciation Month. And so we talked to all 20 or so of the Alexandria Social Security people. We do this because we want them to know us well and to like us. We brought cupcakes so that when you have a problem on Social Security or SSDI, they'll solve the problem for you right away. It's just really fun. By the way, I love Delray. I just had dinner at Pork Barrel Barbecue. My youngest loves to go to Holy Cow. My wife loves to go to Delray Cafe. I just moved all of our pharmacy stuff over to Delray Pharmacy. I apologize to anybody here that works for CVS or Walgreens, but we thought it was pretty cool to have a locally owned business do all that great stuff. And we live in Old Town because we live 50 feet from the old Alexandria Hospital where my wife was born. She has this huge sense of place, so we're not moving. I would love to answer your questions, but I want to hit on three things. First, the big news on Capitol Hill, Comey, and we will see. It's pretty interesting how many Democrats, of course, are going to be, a little bit about, what a terrible thing, Saturday Night Massacre, Richard Nixon. What's fascinating is how many Republicans, from Charles Krauthammer to Bill Kristol to senators like Ben Sasse and Mr. Burr and John McCain, and et cetera, are very concerned about firing the 10-year appointee 3 years in. At about the same time that the Justice Department announced they were subpoenaing records of a lot of the, not necessarily President Trump, but of the people around him, the Manaforts and Stones and Carter Pages and the like. Senator Burr, the Republican from North Carolina, and our own Mark Warner this afternoon subpoenaed Michael Flynn's papers because he wouldn't bring them forth. So you're getting finally the sense of the Congress, both Democrat and Republican, and bipartisan, which is the best way to try to get to the bottom, if there is a bottom. I don't want to prejudge it, but if there is bad stuff going on, that we get to the bottom of it. We know that Russia played a role in the campaign. Not necessarily that Hillary lost or Donald Trump won because of it, but they definitely were deeply involved in trying to upset the campaign, as they just were in France last week. And so as Vice President Cheney has said, we should consider this an act of war and get to the bottom of it. The second big thing was the American Health Care Act, which passed 217 to 213 last week. I voted against it. The good news is I think it's dead in the Senate. And the Senate will probably put together a different health care bill and bring it back to the House, but hopefully it's one that's palatable to most of us. The perspective that I take is that the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, did so many very, very good things that we don't want to lose. The waiver of pre-existing condition. They say 27% of Americans 40 to 60 have a pre-existing condition, and over 65 we're 100%. the keeping kids on until 26, the portability so you can take health care from one job to another. Because of free contraceptives, long-term acting contraceptives, no copay, no deductible, the teen pregnancy rate is the lowest it's been in recorded history. And the abortion rate's the lowest it's been since Roe v. Wade was the law. So if you're pro-life or pro-choice, you should like the Affordable Care Act, because the best approach to abortion is not to get pregnant in the first place. And lots of other good things. The bad news, and 22 million people have health insurance that didn't have it before. The bad news with the Affordable Care Act is premiums have gone up pretty quickly. I talked to one lady on a phone this afternoon that went from $400 last year to $700 this year. And a lot of places are pulling out. Aetna pulled out of Virginia last week. I had a phone conversation with the CEO of Care First on Friday morning. It was a prearranged call at his request. He wanted to let all these elected leaders know about why they were increasing premiums 50%. And what's happened is that when you have these essential health benefits that are included in every plan, which is good, mammograms and maternity care, and mental health benefits and pre-existing conditions. These are really good things for American health overall, but they're also expensive. And what we've done inadvertently is price a lot of people out of the healthcare market. And that's one of the reasons why there was so much pushback from Republicans on Obamacare. There was a lot of good things, but there were some really hard things too. From my perspective at least, the Trump care didn't fix any of those things and just made a lot of them worse. What we need to do is get Democrats and Republicans to come back together at the table and fix the things that are wrong with Obamacare, essentially to make it more affordable for most people. And that may mean a greater federal government engagement in it. It also probably means a lot more young people in it. Because the notion of insurance is you get a lot of people who don't die to pay for the few people that do, a lot of people that aren't sick to pay for the few people that are sick. And we had far fewer young, healthy people participating in the Affordable Care Act than we thought. Basically, you can look at it different ways. The penalty wasn't high enough, or it wasn't a strong enough mandate, or whatever. What happens now is that the more expensive it gets, the even fewer young people want to be involved in it, and you get fewer, older, sicker people taking advantage of it, which drives the premium up. And so there are still big challenges to meet. The third big thing is we actually have a funding budget for the government through September 30th. It only took us about 8 months, 8 late, but and it's a pretty stable budget. It looks much like the ones we had in recent years. It didn't pay for the wall in Mexico. It didn't cut Planned Parenthood. It did add $2 billion to the NIH budget, which was great. However, so we're okay through September 30th, but then there's going to be a big fight then as we try to say, does the next budget look like the skinny budget that President Trump rolled out about 2 months ago? Or does it look more like the budgets that we've had the last many decades?